He wrote about NATO on Friday. He said, without the USA, NATO is a paper tiger. They didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear-powered Iran. He calls them cowards, and he says, we will remember. I think the question that comes up for me is that doesn't seem like a message that's written from a position of strength. If you have allies, treaty allies, that you then have to turn around and insult and reprimand and all of that stuff because you couldn't convince them to come along with you on something, that seems like a sign of weakness.
I think it actually is the opposite. It's
How
the fact
is it
that
he's, how
well,
does
let me
it show strength that he doesn't, that he can't get NATO to come along with him?
First of all, it's the fact that he's willing to lose our allies because they so much don't contribute to our own efforts that he says, we don't need it. Take it or leave it. If we have them, great. If we don't have them, we don't need them. Second of all, when it comes to NATO, this is an organization that had never funded appropriately their own share of the burden. And they have been pissed at Donald Trump since the day he came down that escalator because he has wanted them to pay for their fair share. Last but not least, look, the Strait of Hormuz is not just beneficial to the United States, okay? Europe is also benefiting from it, right? Sulfur travels through that Strait of Hormuz. That sulfur then goes to Africa for farming. It goes to Europe for farming. They also need to hope and pray that that thing can open. So the fact that right now the United States has done a lot of the bulk work and is saying, can you guys now come and step up because you are our allies? Should you not help us when we need some help?
We're doing the bulk work of a war that we started?
But we started a war because Iran started a war 47 years ago. We're finishing the war.
But we're not picking sides for backyard soccer here. Right? What we're doing is we're trying to figure out how do we wage a war. And that means you got to bring people along with you onto your side. And so the question is, why are they just now figuring this out? I don't. There is no answer to that question. Why didn't we spend the time that we spent, and those of us who are old enough to remember going into Iraq, right?
Right.
Before that, George Bush, even though I disagree with it, but he had a mounted campaign going to the United Nations, talking to the American people, stories in the newspapers. So the American public was on board with
that. Coalition of the willing. I mean, look, it's been 47 years. What's a few more months getting allies on board?
Well, I'll tell you, this was an emergency exigency. This wasn't an 8-month build-up.
Was it?
Yes, it was. Because after Midnight Hammer, we had evidence, and I think the administration
Tulsi Gabbard said the opposite this week
that they
in
had
testimony.
That they had evidence that they were not.
She said,
that they had evidence that they were not developing their nuclear program. What they have said, because they lack the resources to